First contact and betrayal. They came on a Tuesday. No warnings, no radio signals, no diplomatic overtures. Just 7 massive ships materializing in Earth's orbit, their hulls gleaming like obsidian mirrors against the backdrop of stars. For 6 hours, they did nothing but hover silently, while Earth below descended into a cocktail of panic, wonder, and preparation for the worst. Military satellites caught the arrival first. Within minutes, every government defense system went to high alert. Fighter jets scrambled, missile silos opened, and submarine fleets surfaced in defensive formations. The world collectively held its breath as news channels broadcast shaky footage of the alien vessels, their smooth surfaces occasionally pulsing with threads of blue light that resembled digital veins. Dr. Elena Reyes was having breakfast when her secure phone buzzed. As Earth's leading xenolinguist, she'd spent decades theorizing about first contact scenarios. Now, watching the live stream on her tablet while government transport raced toward her home, she felt a strange calm. This was humanity's moment. The day everything changed. "They're broadcasting," said General Harris when Elena arrived at the hastily assembled First Contact Command Center beneath the Pentagon. "Every frequency, every language, even dead ones. They're speaking Sumerian, Latin, Sanskrit." Elena nodded, studying the scrolling translations. "They're showing off. Making sure we understand they've been watching us for a very long time." The message was simple. "We are the Galactic Conclave. We come in peace. We bring knowledge. We seek friendship." Within days, the world's governments formed an unprecedented coalition. The United Earth Response Council brought together diplomats, scientists, and military leaders from every nation. Despite centuries of conflict, humans united with surprising speed when faced with something utterly alien. The conclave delegates descended in smaller vessels, landing in neutral territory, Antarctica. They were tall, willowy beings with skin that shimmered between translucent and opaque, their 4 arms moving with hypnotic grace. They called themselves the Valari, representatives of a coalition of 17 species that govern most of the Milky Way. "Earth has reached the threshold," announced Emissary Thex, their lead diplomat, voice melodic and strangely soothing. "Your species is now ready to join the greater community. We offer technological exchange, medical advancement, interstellar trade." The offer seemed too good to be true. Clean energy technology, cures for cancer and Alzheimer's, faster-than-light travel principles. For 6 months, Earth celebrated. Stock markets soared as corporations partnered with alien technologies. Religious leaders incorporated the existence of aliens into their theologies. Children played with holographic toys modeled after conclave species. Elena found herself at the center of it all, leading the linguistic exchange program. She spent hours with the Valari delegates, learning their clicking, melodic language while teaching them the nuances of human expression. "Your species fascinates us," Thex told her one evening as they watched sunset over the Antarctic Research Station. "Such determination from such a fragile form." Something in the way Thex said "fragile" made Elena uneasy. The first disappearances began in remote villages, places with spotty satellite coverage and limited connectivity. A fishing community in Indonesia vanished overnight. A mining town in northern Canada went silent. A research outpost in the Sahara simply emptied. Tents still standing, equipment still running, but not a soul remaining. Authorities blamed everything from mass hysteria to terrorist cells. The conclave expressed sympathy but offered little help. "Perhaps they sought better opportunities elsewhere," suggested Thex when Elena questioned him. "Change brings displacement." But Elena had begun noticing patterns. Every disappearance occurred within days of a conclave cultural survey team visiting the area. And the displaced never used their identifications again. No banking activity, no social media, no digital footprints whatsoever. It was Marcus Wells, a satellite technician from Australia, who broke the story open. Using personal equipment, he'd been tracking the smaller conclave vessels out of fascination. His footage showed ships landing near villages days before they were reported abandoned. More damning, thermal imaging captured hundreds of human-sized heat signatures being loaded onto the vessels before departure. The footage went viral despite aggressive efforts to suppress it. Then Marcus disappeared too, but not before sending his complete findings to journalists worldwide. Elena confronted Thex with the evidence. "What are you doing with these people?" The Valari's skin darkened to a stormy gray. "Progress requires resources, Dr. Reyes. Some must contribute more." Directly. The truth emerged in horrifying detail. The Conclave wasn't a diplomatic entity. It was a harvesting operation. Earth wasn't being welcomed into a galactic community. It was being prepared for extraction. Humans were being collected as biological test subjects, labor, and worse. The Valari used organic components in their technology, specifically neural tissue that could process certain types of quantum calculations. "You're farming us," Elena realized with dawning horror. "We prefer cultivating," Thex replied. "Your species produces exceptional neural architecture. And there are so many of you, billions to spare." When Elena tried to leave the Antarctic facility, she found herself detained. But decades of academic politics had taught her something about manipulation. She convinced a sympathetic technician to smuggle out her findings on a secure channel to her former doctoral student, now working in military intelligence. 3 days later, a special forces team extracted her under cover of a mechanical failure that disabled the facility's security systems. By then, similar discoveries were happening worldwide. Conclave medical facilities were revealed as processing centers. Cultural exchanges were assessment operations for determining which human populations would be harvested first. In the remote town of Salvation, Wyoming, locals took matters into their own hands when a Conclave vessel landed near their water treatment facility. Led by Sheriff Kate Mercer, a former Marine, they ambushed the collection team with hunting rifles and improvised explosives. To everyone's surprise, the advanced aliens were vulnerable to simple ballistic weapons when caught unaware. The Salvation incident, as it became known, spread like wildfire through underground networks. The aliens weren't invincible. They could bleed. They could die. Resistance cells formed spontaneously across the globe. Military defectors brought weapons and training. Scientists contributed knowledge gleaned from studying Conclave technology. Hackers infiltrated the communication systems the aliens had integrated with Earth's networks. Elena found herself at the heart of it all, her linguistic expertise now repurposed to decode Conclave communications. Working from a bunker beneath the Rockies, she discovered the horrifying scale of their operation. Earth wasn't the first world they'd harvested. Dozens of civilizations have been reduced to manageable resource populations. "They see us as livestock," she told the hastily assembled Joint Chiefs of Staff. "But they've never encountered livestock that fights back so effectively." The Conclave's response to the growing resistance was swift and brutal. They deployed atmospheric destabilizers over major cities, creating localized weather catastrophes. Jakarta was hit by tsunamis from clear skies. Moscow froze in the middle of summer. Los Angeles burned under artificially intensified solar radiation. Millions died. Billions more faced the choice between submission and resistance. The turning point came unexpectedly. A teenager in Nairobi, Kenya, Imani Okello, a programming prodigy, discovered a vulnerability in the Conclave's integrated communication network. Their technologies, designed to interface with Earth's digital infrastructure, contained an exploitable backdoor. With help from a global collective of hackers, Imani created a virus that could temporarily paralyze Conclave systems. On a coordinated date, July 4th, in a nod to American independence traditions, resistance cells worldwide deployed the virus while launching simultaneous physical attacks on Conclave ground operations. In the chaos that followed, humanity learned something crucial. The 7 massive ships in orbit, which everyone had assumed were warships, were actually harvesting vessels. They had minimal defensive capabilities, as the Conclave had never needed to defend themselves against species they harvested. 3 of the orbital ships were damaged by hastily weaponized space telescopes and repurposed satellites, One crashed into the Indian Ocean, causing catastrophic tidal waves, but confirming their vulnerability. The remaining conclave forces retreated to the 4 intact orbital vessels, taking thousands of human captives with them as they withdrew from surface operations. From orbit, their leader, no longer Thex, but a higher-ranking Valari called the Overseer, issued an ultimatum. Resistance is inefficient, the transmission began. Surrender your leaders and dismantle your weapons, or we will return with the actual conclave fleet. What you have encountered is merely an advanced resource assessment team. Elena, now working directly with what remained of Earth's united government, helped craft humanity's response. As military forces worldwide repositioned to prepare for the next phase, as scientists worked feverishly to understand and replicate conclave technology, as ordinary citizens built shelters and formed militia units, a simple message was broadcast toward the remaining ships. Earth is no longer accepting visitors. Approach at your own risk. The conclave ships remained in orbit, presumably awaiting reinforcements. Below them, humanity prepared for war. What no one yet realized was that humans had already changed the game. For the first time in the conclave's long history of harvesting developing worlds, prey had become predator. The first battle had ended, but the real war for Earth's future was just beginning. The Defiance Protocol. 90 days after humanity's defiant message, the skies remained quiet. The 4 remaining conclave ships maintained their orbital positions, neither advancing nor retreating. On Earth, the silence was filled with purpose. What had begun as scattered resistance evolved into coordinated global defense. Ancient rivalries dissolved under existential threat. Chinese semiconductor engineers worked alongside American weapons developers. Russian cosmonauts trained Iranian pilots on newly developed spacecraft. A Brazilian-led coalition of Southern Hemisphere nations created a secondary command center beneath the Andes, while Europe transformed its particle physics laboratories into weapons research facilities. They called it the Defiance Protocol, humanity's comprehensive plan not just to survive, but to take the fight beyond Earth if necessary. We've been keeping secrets from each other for too long, General Amara Okafor told the assembled United Defense Council. As former head of Nigeria's space program, she now commanded Earth's unified military response. Now we need to share them all. Nation after nation revealed black budget projects that had been developed in utmost secrecy. The Chinese unveiled advanced drone swarms with rudimentary AI. Russia demonstrated electromagnetic pulse weapons far beyond what was thought possible. America brought forth experimental antimatter containment technology. India offered quantum computing breakthroughs. But the most shocking revelation came from an unexpected source. Japan's representative quietly announced that their defense ministry had recovered a damaged alien craft nearly 60 years ago. The Kyoto incident, as it was known internally, had been kept so secret that fewer than 30 people knew of its existence over 6 decades. We reverse-engineered what we could, explained Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura, lead scientist of the project. Our progress was slow, but we developed functional prototypes based on their propulsion system. The world's scientists converged on the hidden facility beneath Mount Fuji. The Japanese technology, combined with insights gleaned from captured conclave equipment, accelerated human advancement by decades in mere months. Plasma weapons, gravitational shields, and most importantly, engines capable of lunar transit in hours rather than days. Meanwhile, Elena Rice led a different kind of breakthrough. Working with multilingual AI systems, she had fully cracked the conclave communication protocols. What she discovered gave humanity its first real advantage. They're not one unified force, she explained to the UDC's inner circle. The conclave is a hierarchical collection of species, each with different responsibilities and privileges. The Valari we've encountered are mid-level administrators, glorified resource managers. They expected an easy harvest and weren't prepared for resistance. Elena's intelligence revealed something more. The Valari were stalling. Their ships lacked the communication range to contact the main conclave fleet directly. They'd dispatched faster-than-light messenger drones, but reinforcements would take months to arrive. "They're waiting for backup," General Okafor concluded, "which means we have time to prepare, but not much." The Defiance Protocol's first phase activated 40 days later. 3 experimental spacecraft, built in hardened bunkers beneath the Antarctic ice, launched without warning. Their mission: secure Earth's most critical defensive position, the Moon. The lunar surface had been largely ignored by the conclave vessels, which had focused their attention on Earth itself. This oversight proved fatal. The human vessels, piloted by an international crew of military veterans and test pilots, established a beachhead on the far side of the Moon, out of direct observation from both Earth and the conclave ships. What followed was an engineering miracle born of desperation. Using advanced manufacturing techniques and materials developed from conclave technology, the lunar team constructed a network of electromagnetic railguns. Massive, simple, and devastatingly effective, the weapons could accelerate projectiles to velocities that would make them nearly impossible to detect before impact. The conclave noticed the lunar activity too late. When a scout vessel approached the Moon to investigate, it encountered humanity's first extraterrestrial defense system. The railgun's projectile, a simple tungsten rod, punched through the alien ship's hull at 15,000 miles per hour. The vessel shattered like glass, debris scattering across the lunar surface. On Earth, billions watched the live feed in stunned silence, then erupted in celebration. First blood in space had gone to humanity. The remaining conclave ships responded immediately, positioning themselves for an attack on the lunar base. But Earth was ready. The Global Defense Network activated orbital weapon platforms that had been disguised as communication satellites, primitive by conclave standards, but positioned in overwhelming numbers. The weapons unleashed a barrage of conventional explosives and focused electromagnetic pulses. 2 more conclave vessels fell, one breaking apart in orbit, the other crashing into the Atlantic. The final ship, the Overseer's command vessel, retreated to a higher orbit, beyond the reach of Earth's defensive capabilities. For the first time, the conclave opened direct communications. "This defiance is unprecedented," the Overseer's transmission began. "You cannot comprehend the forces you provoke. The conclave harvests thousands of worlds. Our fleet numbers in the millions." The Lena, now serving as humanity's chief interspecies diplomat, crafted the response personally. "We understand perfectly," she replied. "You've never faced resistance because you prey on developing civilizations. You miscalculated with Earth. We're declaring our solar system a no-fly zone for all conclave vessels. Any approach will be considered an act of war." The Overseer's response was immediate. "Your species will be eradicated for this insolence." "Perhaps," Elena conceded, "but we've studied your technology. We've analyzed your biology. You should know that we've transmitted complete defense schematics to every broadcasting station on Earth. If your fleet arrives, they'll find 8 billion humans ready to fight. And now we know exactly how to hurt you." 3 weeks passed. The command ship remained in its distant orbit, occasionally transmitting threats, but taking no action. Earth used the time wisely. The lunar base expanded, additional defense systems were constructed in orbit, and humanity's collective scientific efforts continued advancing their military capabilities at unprecedented speed. Then, without warning, the command ship began powering up its main engines. Global defense systems locked on, preparing for an attack. Instead, the massive vessel turned away from Earth and accelerated toward the outer solar system. It was retreating. Celebrations erupted worldwide, but military leadership remained cautious. The conclave fleet was still coming. This was just the first round of a longer war. The next phase of the Defiance Protocol activated immediately. Using the abundant resources of the lunar surface, humanity expanded its manufacturing capabilities. Additional bases were constructed on Mars and in the asteroid belt. Early warning systems extended to the edges of the solar system. 6 months later, the long-range sensors detected the first wave of the conclave fleet. 50 vessels approaching from beyond Neptune's orbit. They were smaller than the original harvesters, but faster and clearly designed for combat. Humanity's unified forces met them at the orbit of Jupiter. The battle lasted less than an hour. 37 conclave ships were destroyed by the combined Earth fleet and automated defense systems hidden throughout the outer planets. The remaining alien vessels retreated, clearly unprepared for the level of resistance they encountered. Analysis of the battle revealed something crucial. The conclave, despite its technological advantages, had little actual combat experience. They were harvesters, not warriors. Their tactics were predictable, their strategies unimaginative. Millennia of unopposed expansion had left them complacent. They don't know how to fight a war, General Okafor observed. They only know how to cull the defenseless. 3 more incursions followed over the next year, each larger than the last, each repelled with increasing efficiency as humanity refined its defenses and tactics. Earth suffered losses, but the alien forces found no foothold in the solar system. Then came the diplomatic contact, not from the conclave, but from another species, the Nelvarans, sleek, crystalline beings who approached under a flag of truce. They explained, another spacefaring civilization that had managed to resist conclave harvesting through advanced technology and strategic positioning near the galactic core. "We've watched your resistance with great interest," their emissary explained to Elena. "No species has ever repelled a conclave harvesting operation with such primitive starting technology. Your adaptability is unsettling. Unsettling enough to form an alliance?" Elena asked. The Nelvaran hesitated. "That remains to be seen. But we bring information. The conclave is preparing their final response to your defiance. A full harvesting fleet, thousands of ships. They cannot allow the precedent of successful resistance. Humanity had months, perhaps a year before the Armada arrived. The Defiance Protocol entered its final phase, the unthinkable option that had been planned for but never openly discussed. Operation Lighthouse. Using technologies derived from both conclave vessels and Nelvaran insights, Earth constructed a quantum beacon at the edge of the solar system. Its purpose was simple and terrible: to broadcast the coordinates of conclave homeworlds and fleet positions to every spacefaring species in the galaxy. The conclave has maintained power through secrecy and selecting isolated targets, Elena explained to the UDC. They've made enemies of hundreds of species over thousands of years. If we expose their vulnerabilities to all their former victims simultaneously, we start a galactic war, finished General Okafor soberly. "They started it," replied Elena. "We're just inviting everyone to the party." When the main conclave fleet finally arrived, over 5,000 ships strong, they found Earth waiting. Not with weapons, but with a message. "We've transmitted the quantum coordinates of every conclave homeworld, fleet position, and harvesting operation to 200 former victim species. Some have already launched counterattacks against your core worlds. We've also shared complete technical specifications of your vessel's vulnerabilities. You face revolution on every front, or we can negotiate." For 3 tense days, the massive fleet held position beyond Mars' orbit. Earth's defenses remained on highest alert, prepared for extinction, but determined to extract a price too high for even the conclave to pay. Finally, the response came. The Overseer itself requested direct communications with Earth's leaders. "Your species is unlike any we have encountered," it began, multi-limbed form shimmering with barely contained rage. "You threaten the stability of galactic order. We threaten only those who threatened us first," Elena responded. "The terms are simple. The conclave will acknowledge Earth and the entire solar system as sovereign territory, permanently off-limits to harvesting. Additionally, you will release all humans taken during your operations here. And if we refuse," the Overseer demanded, "then we activate the second phase of Operation Lighthouse." General Okafor answered, "We've prepared technical packages for every species you've harvested, containing complete instructions for replicating our defensive systems. The age of easy harvesting ends today, one way or another. 2 weeks later, the treaty was signed. The Sol Accords, as they became known, established Earth as the first protected development zone in conclave history. The human captives, those who had survived, were returned. The conclave fleet withdrew. In the years that followed, humanity expanded throughout the solar system. The unity forged in crisis mostly held, though old rivalries occasionally resurfaced. Earth established diplomatic relations with other non-conclave species, including the Nelvarans and several others who reached out after witnessing humanity's successful defiance. The lunar base became Luna City, the first permanent human settlement beyond Earth. Mars colonies followed, then asteroid mining operations, and eventually the first experimental interstellar probes. The Lena Reyes, now serving as Earth's ambassador to interstellar affairs, often reflected on how close humanity had come to becoming just another harvested species. On the 10th anniversary of the Salvation Incident, she dedicated the memorial to human defiance, a simple stone monument erected where that small Wyoming town had made the first stand. The inscription read simply, "They came to harvest. We showed them why Earth grows warriors." The conclave never returned to the solar system, but somewhere in the vastness of space, their harvesters continued seeking easier prey, and somewhere in the darkness between stars, former victims watched Earth with mixed emotions, gratitude, admiration, and a growing unease about what humanity might become now that it had earned its place among the stars. Because the galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humans don't just survive. They fight back, and they remember.